Oh, good. And 6:45.
Do the PDF
There
or
it
share
is.
screen? Why don't you just-
I have a PDF, so.
Yeah.
Do you want me just to give that to you?
Yeah, or can you share your screen from there?
I'll have to log into Zoom.
Okay, either way, you can either give me a thumb drive or,
Yeah,
although you can't really give me a thumb drive because I can't take out this. Oh, we'll figure it out.
yeah, I did email it to everybody. I'll just log in and share.
Okay.
Let me just make sure I do have the Wi-Fi here, so that's easy.
All right, that's taken care of. Let's bring this meeting to order. March 18th, 2025, Newburyport Conservation Commission meeting taking place in the boardroom of the Senior Center. This meeting is being recorded. First item are the March 4th meeting minutes. May I have comments, changes?
Motion to approve. Second.
Um, Seymour,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, Julie, we have any Plum Island updates?
I do not have any.
Okay. Then on to our request for determinations, Paul Cyphers for Stanley Tucker Drive, request for determination.
Thank you, I'm present.
You would like to share your screen now or?
I still don't have
Not
a
working?
link.
Okay, so I have,
I uploaded it this afternoon if you can access it.
I've got this is, your request for determination of applicability.
Yeah.
This is the site.
Yep,
Okay, so this is, for Stanley Tucker Drive.
correct.
Then we've got, this plan shows the row of trees at the west end of the structure. Right?
Correct.
This is the existing, are these solar panels on the roof or something?
That's our plan, is to put solar panels on the roof.
Got it. Then, and I've got your planting plan, so,
That's awfully old, that was from when the building was first built.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so, do you wanna maybe walk the commission through just using what we've got here? Or do you want me to just, do you need a link to the, Zoom and then you can share?
I think a link would be
Okay,
better.
so if you go to the city's website,
I'm trying to get there now, I don't know why I can't access it, but,
cityofnewburyport.com.
okay, I'm there.
Okay, then go down to find the calendar, city calendar.
Conservation Commission calendar.
Yeah.
Okay, 18.
Yep, and on our agenda.
Yep.
There should be a Zoom link at the top. So here's our agenda, you can see, we're here.
It looks different on my homepage.
Oh, okay.
Is it this link right here?
It's,
It's probably that.
yeah,
Okay, sorry. It looks different.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll go down to, yeah.
right there. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Now I'll be able to share it from my hard drive.
Let me know when you're ready, I'll stop sharing.
Share. Thank you. I'm sorry for the
No worries,
slowness.
usually the one having technical difficulties here.
Okay, good. So that's open now. If I just could share, I'll be all set.
Okay. Go right ahead.
Just click launch meeting.
You have an option for share your screen.
The meeting hasn't launched yet. I
Oh,
clicked launch meeting,
Okay.
but now for the fourth time.
it might take a minute.
But join from my browser, will that help them?
Yeah. Yes. If you have an option for join, that's usually,
It looks like it's loading now. Thank you, appreciate that. Joining webinar, okay, good. And then,
once I see you over here as a panelist, there you are. All right, so I'm gonna promote you to a panelist,
thank you.
which will allow you, give it a minute, it'll allow you to share your screen.
Okay,
You have to like agree.
join as a panelist.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Now it's reconnecting.
There you go. All right.
Share screen, oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Now, I guess I'll mute, let me mute on my own. Okay, now I'll share. Oh, yes. Like it's loading. See it, let me pop it up and see if you see it. Not yet.
You have to share your screen.
I just hit
Maybe,
share.
just so I can share your time. You hit, click share and then click your document,
Click share screen is what I did. And
and
then
did you have it open on your screen?
yeah. So I clicked entire screen and then share.
Yes, sometimes it's like. oh,
And what I
entire
used to do was I
screen.
didn't select the screen and then share.
Well, do you have it open as a PDF?
I have it open as publisher.
Yeah, okay, so
There it
there
is.
you go, yeah.
So sorry, everyone. Thank you for your patience. So I'm Paul Cyphers. I'm the sustainability and building automation person for Applied Materials with property at 4 Stanley Tucker Drive, Newburyport, Mass. We're requesting to remove 12 trees within 35 feet of the west side and replant with 12 trees. From the view from space shows we have an 85-foot setback on the northwest end and a 105-foot setback from the property boundary on the southwest end. To try to conserve the 50-foot, no disturb zone, we thought it would be appropriate to propose to remove 12 trees within 35 feet of the building west side and replace them with 12 trees. The reason being is that those pines, mostly pines, we'll go through the individual species in a minute, are gonna keep me from putting solar panels on this west side of the roof. So that's the west side building, looking at some lawn, which actually I'd much prefer if we, since I'm a sustainability guy, if we did some wildflower plantings there, I think that might be a change we're gonna make.
Yeah.
And I just wanna say for my corporation, it's just so easy for them to design a building with lawn and a sprinkler and then gas to cut the mower and then the labor to hire the guy or woman to mow it. I'm a big fan of wildflowers, so that could change here too. I'm also a big fan of trees, so we're definitely gonna be replanting. There's 2 oaks and 1 cedar. The cedar's kind of spindly and not healthy. So, and it is within the 35 feet, so I decided we would propose to take that out. And then there are 9 pines, white pines, that are all within the 35-foot zone, most of them at 34 feet. It's right outside of that, the lawn area. And then for replanting, a mix of the following species is recommended. Native to this area and help support native ecosystems. So I got a couple of evergreen options here. And I really like the deciduous options. I think I'm gonna mix them up if the board approves. I really like the berries and stuff for the animals and the birds to be able to use those trees as well. And, that's the end of my presentation.
Could you, I can't really read
Sure.
what they are, if you could read.
Oh, sure, from the top down, evergreen options are American holly, broadleaf evergreen with dark green leaves and bright red berries. Sometimes growing 25 to 60 foot tall, so that's an issue, but if I plant these sort of on the more northerly edge, then they won't interfere with the solar gain. American arborvitae, a smaller evergreen. And then for deciduous, there's some really good ones with berries for wildlife, redbud, spicebush, winterberry holly, choke cherries, and viburnums.
Sounds good.
Any questions?
How many of those? Just one for one or?
One for one, it's gonna be 12, yeah, and I'd like to mix them up, I don't know if you approve, I'd like to just choose one of each of these and then, you know, maybe a few of a couple, because I have to put in 12, I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 species there. So maybe 2 of each. They're smaller, so I could replace 12 with 14, I wouldn't mind doing that.
No, you can put as many as you want. We're not gonna argue about anything.
And as a matter of fact, in Gloucester, which is where I work at the Gloucester facility, I'm looking to replace a lot of lawn and sod with wildflowers, so we're in the middle of doing that as well. I'm also on the Variant Green team, so we're very much interested in water conservation, energy conservation in general.
So the arborvitae is kind of a tall spindly thing.
Yeah, you know, the only reason I threw it on there is because it's evergreen and it's one of the 2 that are native, and it's a good place for some of the animals to hide and birds to hide in. But it's not gonna be a wall of arborvitae.
Yeah.
That looks to me not natural enough.
Yeah.
And as you see, we're right next to a water, you know, a wild stream or brook, so I wanna make it look natural over here, close right there.
So you'd be planting these in the same location where you're taking out the trees?
Yeah. Yeah, right within that 35, most of them are basically 33 to 35 feet, there's like a straight line of pines. I don't know if they were planted or if they just were volunteers. But the trees behind them, towards the creek, are very much smaller, most of them are, look like both blueberry bushes and that type of thing, but. Since I'm removing trees, I can put in trees.
Are you just cutting them down, or are you grinding them?
We're gonna grind them and chip them. We propose to use Essex County landscapers just because they're one of our contractors. And they're gonna hire an arborist, as a subcontractor of theirs. If you have a preferred contractor, let me know. No.
If you wanna dig up that grass and plant pollinators.
That's what I want. Also in Gloucester, we have honeybees, and we're thinking of bringing those up to the Newburyport facility as well. So this is, you're exactly on my page.
I'm good with it, I don't know about the rest of
No,
them.
yeah.
This is what I want to do. And I want to be green with the solar, so that's driving the project. I'm sorry I have to cut down trees to be green. But
You're making up for it.
yeah, I'm making up for it with the replantings and with the solar gain. I'll be using a lot less electricity.
Okay.
All right, enough out of me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Stop sharing.
stop sharing. Yeah, thank you.
All right, are we good?
Maybe 2 or 3.
Do we have any, we don't really have any conditions, do we? We don't really need any conditions for this, do we, Jen?
Not really, I mean, not unless you wanna specify a certain number to make sure that that number gets planted, or you wanna specify anything about location or timing of monitoring, whatever, stuff like that.
We can make it at least 12,
Yeah.
at least 1 to 1.
And the more the better.
More than
Yeah,
that, right?
right, knock yourself out.
More berries for the birds, the better.
Mm-hmm.
-2.
If we're, no, the -3 has a condition.
Okay.
Do you want them to be monitored for survival and replaced if they don't survive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe 3.
Oh, and I didn't mention this one beautiful cedar tree at the north end that's within the 35-foot zone, but it's so healthy and so beautiful and it's not gonna get in the way of the shade, so I decided to leave that one.
Good.
Okay.
And I'll make a motion for a -3 determination. With the condition being, we'll monitor it for 2 years to make the plants, sure the plants survive.
Sure. Sure, and if they die, I'll replant. Yeah.
I'll second that.
All right, Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Marshall,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Boyd.
Well done.
Should I hang around or am I?
You're all
Can I
set.
go
What's
home?
up?
Free to go.
Only if you want
I'll
before.
send you this, I'll send you this determination, you'll be able to access it through OpenGov, and I can send you a copy in the mail also if you'd like.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. In motion to open the public hearings,
So moved.
Second.
second. Gretchen, this one we can do, voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, first item is Judith Welsh, 101 Curzon Mill Road, notice of intent, continued from March 4th. We got a request to continue till when?
It may go 2 meetings, but can we try the next one just to,
I don't think we're gonna have.
We may not have a
Also
next
go to
meeting
2 meetings.
that's fine, then just go to the second meeting.
at the 15th.
15th.
Any trouble trying to get sewage to Rock Hill?
It's been snow coverage, so figuring out where, it's going to the septic, so figuring out where that is. and Getting it surveyed and on the plan, so we're getting there
All right,
slowly.
Motion to continue to the April 15th.
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Dan Marshall,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, next one. River Valley Charter School, 2 Perry Way, notice of intent.
Thank you for keeping them alive for me, for ethical action.
After the next one?
Yeah.
We could,
If-
we
if-
can do that, if you want. All right,
They regret that.
we'll table, yeah, you may regret that. We'll table that, and, next one is Eric Primack, 570 Merrimack Street, notice of intent.
Okay.
And you showed up just in time.
Wow.
Sorry.
So, Julie, if you can elevate me, then I'll.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. Do we connect?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have to reconnect, so.
Okay.
I closed the laptop.
Is there anyone else from your team?
Yeah, Steve Sawyer,
Actually, I'm here.
oh, there he is.
I've seen the walk away,
yeah.
go up in the alley.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
I like to
and Jeff Roloffs, yeah. While I'm logging in, good evening. For the record, I'm Tom Hughes, with Hughes Environmental Consulting. Here on behalf of, Eric Primack and, PHCR Incorporated, with me tonight, we've got several members of the project team, but with, Steve Sawyer, Lisa Nash, and Jeff Roloffs on the Zoom may participate. I'm going to go through the project, have Steve give a quick overview of the stormwater. I'm gonna give a quick overview of the landscape part, and if we need to drill down into that, Lisa's here to be able to address those things, so.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, so, let me share screen. Why is it easy to share the whole screen?
That same thing.
Oh, here we go. I think they just changed the software again.
Yeah. I had trouble with it too.
Okay. All right, so the project's located at 5, 7, and 11 Spofford, as well as 570 and 572 Merrimack Street. So the Spofford lots, there's one here.
Can you blow that up?
Absolutely. Yeah, you'll be seeing more detail as we go, but I think this is a good photo to show you. So there's a house on this lot. There is a portion of a house on this lot. And the other portion of the house is on this lot. This lot here, those are the Spofford ones, and this is 570 and this is 572. And the assessor lines are not far from wrong here. There's a number of structures here and they encroach over property lines. So we're starting with 5 lots and the plan is to end with 5 lots. This is a 5 lot, for the purpose of the Wetland Protection Act, a 5 lot residential subdivision, for the purpose of the planning board to doing an ANR to shift lot lines around, creating 4 lots. And then we're in front of planning to take one of those lots and split it. So it's simpler for you guys. Just think of this as a 5 lot subdivision. So much of the work is outside of jurisdiction, but portions of it are within. So for the record, the location, it's right over, you know, at the end of Merrimack Street, at the corner with Spofford. I think many of you guys are familiar with this. If you ever driven down, look to the right, it's the big piece of property. It looks like it's got a bunch of buildings on it. No, a whole bunch of lawn right down to the river. So, all right, so this is the 2023 aerial photograph. It kind of gives you a sense of what's going on. There's a little boathouse down by the river that's been there forever. There is kind of an overgrown crude boat ramp that was next to that, which appears to be where they launched boats from. There's a carriage path that is there, and it's pretty obvious, sort of very hard packed with portions of it within the wetland, which has been where they've driven down historically. And I've got some aerials showing some pretty heavy equipment down there, down by the river. There's a boathouse, a big shed right here. You've got another shed that is up on the hill in here. You've got a commercial building, a workshop. You've got a big shed here, single family home, garage, single family home, single family home. And as I showed you on that assessor's line, assessor's map on that first thing, you'll see that these buildings just bear no resemblance to adherence with zoning in relation to lot lines in their current condition. Endangered species habitat, basically it's essentially pretty close to where the wetland boundary is down here. And it encompasses the area down by the river and encompasses the boathouse. So the area is within the AE zone. It's right in the area where the floodway ends. And we've got the elevation is not exactly 9, it's shown on the plan, and I'll go through that in a minute.
Can you back up one?
Yeah.
What was the outlined in orange or red there, is that?
Oh, that's a 500-year X zone, or 0.2%. So that's not a jurisdictional floodplain.
That's the X.
Yeah, that's the mapped X, and then everything out of it is the unmapped X. So everybody here lives essentially in an unmapped X zone, at the very least, regardless of your elevation. So this is a 2001 aerial, and you can kind of see, here's where this cart path I'll be talking about is located. And it actually extends kind of down along the river a little bit. Where they basically, and you can actually see there's a piece of, it looks like maybe either a boat or a piece of equipment here. I've got some aerials that show cranes. There are some big chunks of granite down by the river. Those are still there. We'll talk about those a little bit. And then you have this area here that I'm calling the canal, and I'll explain why, but a portion of this is man-made that overlaps with a pre-existing stream, and a portion of it is entirely man-made. And my understanding is when it was dug out in the sixties, the intent was, to put a dock and have boats come out of here, but it doesn't, I've got no evidence that it ever fully materialized. So because we're in the riverfront area and this site is previously developed, it's important that I establish for you guys a couple things. One of them is, that it's previously developed and contains degraded riverfront. And that degraded riverfront existed in 96 and still exists today. So we're gonna start with 1965. If you can see, this is the area where that canal is. Basically, I think it shares the same opening as what used to be a creek. The very next year in 1966, that's not Mother Nature. You can also see, however, here's that cart path, here's the boathouse, here's the shed down by the water, here's one of the sheds out in the field. It looks like there are actually two. There's only one that remains. You can see the building down here, you can see the homes, you know, pretty much almost identical to what exists to current day. The machine shop's a little bit bigger, but here it is in 1995. And I'll remind you that the Wetlands Protection Act went into effect in 96, and I can't remember if the degraded date is 96 or 97. But you can see that everything we're gonna claim degraded credit for was in existence prior to the Wetlands Protection Act. So when we get into the regulations, this site clearly qualifies for treatment under 310 CMR 1058-5, which is a degraded riverfront. Okay, so now let's go to the actual mapped existing conditions and the resource areas. All right, so there are a plethora of resource areas present, and to make sure I don't miss any, I'm just gonna walk through it. So to start with, the obvious one is riverfront. So the riverfront, because it's the Merrimack River, it extends from all portions of the Merrimack River, and that would include at least the natural portions of that canal. There is an argument where we could try to say that the canal itself beyond that is not jurisdictional, but then when we go through the map, it complies with the riverfront standards, so we figured it's just not worth making a complex regulatory argument. We're just gonna call it jurisdictional and basically go with calling it riverfront. Because it's tidal, the mean high water goes off the tidal datum is 3.82, and we draw out our 200 feet off of that. The riverfront jurisdiction, you can see right here in this dash line. So it cuts through a shed up here. The garage is entirely in, the shed is entirely in here. It cuts down along here, just like the outer corner of this existing home, and then goes off site. So basically, this whole area is riverfront. The next thing we have is, we have an area of land subject to coastal storm flowage. DEP has determined in prior decisions that the limit of land subject to coastal storm flowage is the I-95 bridge. So I cite that decision in the narrative, and for that, looking at the map, you'd see, you know, a transect with 9, but then when you actually dig into the flood insurance study, it's 8.7 is the flood level here. You have to actually look at the transects and look at the data there. Then we have coastal bank, and the coastal bank on this existing conditions plan is somewhat simplified. As I think you guys are aware, the way you do coastal bank is you cut cross sections through the bank, through the property perpendicular to contour lines, and then you compare it to a number of different figures. The more detailed characterization of the coastal bank, I am going to submit before the next meeting. The surveyor is working on it, but he's had to do 1 million transects to get it actually correct. There is a lower coastal bank that is intermittent. In some places, we don't have the proper slope to have a coastal bank along here, for example, where that boat ramp was, and a couple of spots, but there's a coastal bank right along the top of the bank along the river. And then there's another coastal bank that runs where we go from a relatively flat area back onto a slope up in here. So we really have two sets of buffer zones. The one that is more critical and more important for the project is really this outer one that's drawn in here, which is essentially the second coastal bank interior of the site, and we've got the buffer zones going off of that. This is at the very upper reach of where coastal bank is found in the Merrimack River. So to me, it's always been weird that you draw a black and white line that here's where coastal bank ends and inland bank start, you know. It's not a black and white line. This would be considered a bank that would contribute sediment to a coastal beach. But the likelihood of wave action eroding this in a way that would have a meaningful sediment contribution to anything is limited. However, we'll go through the analysis and show you that we actually don't have any negative effect on that. And we actually are gonna have some positive influence. The coastal bank does cut right through this boathouse, and so we'll be removing that and restoring that area. So here are the sections that support the delineation shown on that existing conditions plan, but that, like I said, that coastal bank determination is actually drawn based on these limited transects, and we've done a whole bunch more, and we're finalizing that plan. Everett had it ready for me late this afternoon, and I'm going through and reviewing that. So the next, resource area out here is the area under the Merrimack River, because it's coastal, is considered land under the ocean. And then we also have a wet meadow area where you can see the wetland symbols. And that was flagged by Mark West. As I think many of you are aware, he's an excellent delineator and really good with soils. And since this area is disturbed, I was actually kind of glad that he was the one who did it, because it's, you know, it's an intensive.
When did he do that?
Last spring. Yeah, the property was marketed with a wetland delineation, but it was ancient with no supporting information. So, you know, we did a fresh delineation. I looked at what Mark flagged. I totally agree with it. It is pretty straightforward when you look at the soils and when you look at it. The one area where, you know, the cart path, it does have hydrology, it does have wetland plants. The soils do show some redox, but it's also not your typical wetland soil. It's been packed over the years. But the cart path does run through there. You've got the existing shed, it does have utilities to it. You know, in terms of water and electric. Anyhow, so those are the resource areas. So we have buffer zone to the BBW, we have the BBW, we have the land under the ocean, et cetera. So we've got a lot of things to go through in terms of addressing performance standards. So now what we're proposing is essentially to take this and create 5 new lots and go from some residential and some commercial use to all residential. Right now, there are sort of 5 primary buildings and a whole bunch of outbuildings, and we plan on going to 5 residential single-family homes with, and I'll show you in a minute, but we'll have an outbuilding that will be kind of at the edge of the field in the upland area that will serve as a kind of communal area for all single-family lots. And then we also are going to maintain that shed down by the water, put on a through flow deck and a through flow walk out to a set of docks that will be shared by each of those single family home lots. But we basically remove everything, and then we take this shed, I think it's the one right here, which is an older kind of historic shed. And that's going to be relocated rather than totally removed. And that will be brought down into this area. And I'll show you on the proposed plans and rehabbed and made into that sort of common, almost like a clubhouse. So this shows you what we're doing with that shed, the boathouse gets removed. We take the smaller, sort of waterfront shed, the old, sort of water access shed, and turn that into a dock. We don't do anything with the cart path except continue to maintain it as it has been historically, so we'll continue to mow it and it will be used to access that area. But what we will be doing is we'll be reverting, and I'll show you more detail on the landscape plan. Reverting the wetland back to wetland, we'll maintain an annual mow on that just to prevent it from going through succession. And we will also maintain the ability to control and remove phragmites, because there are phragmites just off site to the west and just off site to the east. So we all know what would happen if we just let the wetland go on its own. It's just gonna be, you know, a phragmites field within a few years. So we'll look to maintain the phragmites on that.
Thomas, is there gonna be a homeowners association that will be responsible for doing all this work after it's visualized?
I believe so, right, and we can actually have Jeff talk about that a little bit too. Jeff is handling the planning board thing, so he can talk more about sort of legal entity. The one thing that we're not doing is we're not kind of creating an open space lot. This will actually be part of one lot. So they have to work on how they do the easements and the agreements so that they all share the cost associated with that and the overall management of it, but yes, there will be something to have some teeth on that.
That wouldn't be considered like common land then, it would be part of one of the lots.
Yeah, with an easement, correct, that's the way we did talk about creating an additional lot, and I think then that sort of, because of the way this is going through planning, is taking one lot and dividing it into two, it sort of complicates the planning process. We try to create a separate one, because they don't view this as a 5-lot subdivision in planning. You know, one of the first comments we got from the review engineers on stormwater is, why are you managing stormwater for all 5 lots? You don't have to, but under the Wetlands Protection Act, as you guys know, we do. So.
Be like somehow deed restricted for open space then, or?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about that. As I said at the very beginning, we are gonna have to continue the natural heritage. You know, I think you guys, tonight, I'm hoping to just give you a good introduction to the project, answer obvious questions, and kind of get your feet wet in it, and then we'll come back in a couple weeks and things like that. We can, the project team can kind of try to work through and try to come back with.
I just wanna make sure somebody's responsible
Oh, absolutely.
after you're done.
No, absolutely. I mean, this has the potential to be a really nice improvement environmentally, as well as a beautiful place to live. And I think the two things in this site go really hand in hand. Whereas, you know, on some sites, as you know, the developers are sort of kicking and screaming on doing that. In this case, it actually adds a huge benefit from a real estate point of view, as well as from an environmental.
One other question, some of these houses that are being demolished, in the purview of the historical commission would be historical, if they
Yeah,
gotten involved, because
I believe, and let's park that issue and have Jeff address it, but I believe that's already been taken care of.
Okay.
I think we gave the demo thing, went through the year delay and all that stuff, so.
It's in the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
With the way. It'd be fine.
So the other thing we do is we have a pollinator meadow that we're adding. And I'll go through all that, and actually I'll point that out in more detail on the landscape plan. I wanna make sure I actually represent where that's going correctly. And then we also are gonna have kind of a little more fescue back half of the area to be maintained as lawn, and the idea is that would be typically maintained monthly or as needed. So if they've got guests coming over or whatever, they can mow it more often, but it doesn't have to be. So the idea would be, they wouldn't necessarily be restricted to monthly mowing, but we would set it up so there's just one small area that is more typically maintained as their area, swimming pool, and then a single family home. What they're planning doing, separating lots, creates this shared roadway down here with a little turnaround. Both this house, this I think is lot 4A, this is lot 4A, 4B. they share access off this. I'll have Steve go through, stormwater management. These homes up here are basically out of jurisdiction. I mean, you've got a kind of corner of this lot here and a corner of this lot here that's within jurisdiction, but for the most part, this stuff is out of jurisdiction. There's a slight part of this pool here. I'll note also that swimming pools, conversion of lawn to swimming pools is exempt in the regs. And both of these are either in lawn or in areas of existing pavement. So I think just something for you guys to consider as you review this. So I'm gonna skip these details if Steve needs them, we can go back to them. And when I get to the landscape. So there's some elements that aren't shown on here first that I do want to go over. One is that we are going to do invasive control and native planting at where all these plantings go. Basically, there's existing woody vegetation along that canal creek kind of area. And within it, there's some nice natives, but there's also a bunch of invasive shrubs. So the idea is we get in there and we'll clean out the invasive woody species and we'll plant at a density, and I've given you a list of native plants in the narrative that will go in that area. And I think I specify a minimum number of plants that we could put in. But basically it's gonna be a density based approach. So when we do the COC, you should be able to go out there and see that we have, plants every 8 feet. We don't have big gaps or anything like that. So this area reverts to wetland. This becomes a wildflower meadow. Then we have the low mow fescue lawn. The inner riparian is running right here. We have native plantings all in here. This area is sort of temporarily regraded, and this area is sort of temporarily regraded but then restored back to more or less its original condition as lawn. But this area, after regrading, does become a meadow, and a wildflower pollinator meadow.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
So with the restored wetland area, how do you envision making that happen?
Well, just so happens right after the purchase and sale and the purchase of the property, they went, I don't know, what, 2 or 3 months without mowing. It wasn't very long, but it was growing season time.
Yeah.
And sedges and rushes are there. They want to come up.
Okay.
So I think the thing is, let nature do it, but then keep the frag out.
Mhm.
That's the way I would do it.
So would you have someone hand pulling frag when it?
Depends how it comes in. It likely is gonna require herbicide, and the question is, if it starts forming, if it immediately comes in as like a monoculture, then we would actually do a direct application, with a low pressure nozzle spray
Mhm.
of either ismapir or glyphosate based aquatic safe chemical. If it's sporadic, but there's too much to pull, then it would be directly applied bloody glove method or brush trail.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if because you anticipate that happening, that it's likely to come in, that you might want to help out the natives initially establishing by planting also some in there.
So.
To give them all a little bit of a head start.
Yeah, I mean, it's really got some pretty consistent and good native content in there. I think what we could do would be to say something, and this is, I wanna kind of talk this through and think this through a bit more, but we could say something like after a certain period of time where it hasn't been mowed, we would then evaluate whether it needs to be augmented with plugs or seed mix or anything like that. But I think this is one of those cases where when we change the management scheme, Mother Nature to say, oh, thank you very much, I've been waiting.
Mhm.
And,
Is there a write-up about that in the notice of intent? Or-
there's a general one. I wanted to get through the first hearing with you guys and get some feedback before I actually write up the
Okay.
full-on management plan. I have a
Okay.
draft done, but I know it's gonna be changed, and I figured when I've done it before, I end up wasting a lot of time writing something that we then change dramatically. So I just want to kind of get your feedback and then we'll iron that out. at the next meeting.
That's all I was gonna ask for, was it'd be good to have that restoration plan and associated sort of monitoring. and
Yeah. I envision something similar but different to the approach we've used on another development in town where we created like a table with a color key and then a kind of a color key maintenance plan and then an associated narrative. And I think that approach works really well.
Tom, is there gonna be a fence delineating the border of the Polymer field, the garden, in the whole, the property of the house?
I know we talked about it. I honestly don't know the answer. Did we settle on the fence?
It looks like one,
We said the fence would be, maybe like 20 feet off the pool. So it was
Right.
a partial mode on either side and then that.
Right, actually-
modes after.
It is.
yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's just, it's been a while. So yes, we would be putting a fence to kind of demarcate, but it would also demarcate the Lomo fescue area. We could put, maybe some birdhouses or some, something to kind of mark the edge of the Lomo fescue versus the wildflower. Yeah.
Like bluebirds would like it there.
What's that?
I suspect bluebirds would like it there.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about something that will go in there that the developer and you guys would like, I'm sure. So in the end, what it comes down to, because we're in, from the riverfront point of view, because we're in, a currently, previously developed and currently degraded riverfront area. We fall under 310 CMR, 1058-5. And I think we've talked about this on some other projects in town. DEP has this hybrid approach where they also allow you to take your 10% under 1058-4. So what we've done, we added that up, we come in under those numbers. The other standard that we have to meet under that section is you have to show an improvement to the riverfront. I think this is a no-brainer that we're proposing is a big improvement to the riverfront. We're getting rid of a commercial use that has no stormwater controls, and Steve's gonna talk to you about the stormwater controls going in. And we're getting rid of a huge area, including wetland, that have been maintained as lawn. And reverting them back to something that's directly providing an environmental benefit. Not only not being maintained as lawn, but actually, kind of giving back, especially in the pollinator area. We've got some really good native plants going in, and on top of that, adding stormwater control. So why don't I just have Steve give you a quick overview of the stormwater controls, and then, we can take questions, and we've got people from the team here to answer them, to the extent we can tonight, and anything else we'll come back to at the next meeting. Okay. Which plan do you want? Yeah. Can you zoom in this area? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Tom, are you or Steve gonna talk about the dock?
Oh, yeah, well, I'll get to that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the stormwater is, it'll be quick.
Then I'll get to the dock.
We're gonna, it's really.
Is it getting out there? You do that one. I'm not gonna pull that.
Oh, there we go, okay. All right, hopefully I won't drag it around. There you go, it's fine. That's good. All right, so as Tom had mentioned before, this project is running through planning board. We've had our first meeting. And as part of that, it's Courts and Lanes special permit with a definitive subdivision. We're cutting this lots 4A and 4B into 2 lots. And with that, we needed to create frontage. So with that, we have it's called a private court It's a 30-foot wide private way. That runs down slope here off of Merrimack Street with frontage for floor A and floor B. The stormwater for that we're fully controlling the entire paved area, including the driveway for floor A, the driveway from floor B, along with the private court. All is collected on the, collected and routed to an underground infiltration chamber system under the road. The road is super elevated, it's tilted, it's warped, so all the water flows to the left, and there's a decorative stone infiltration trench or collection trench that runs down along the road there. It picks up a majority of the road, probably 70% of it. The turnaround area at the bottom of the hill here, there's two small catch basins, one here and one here. This edge is curved to prevent the water from flowing down the fill slope. There is a little bit of it is a fairly large fill slope here to take the curse off the hill for the driveway, at the end of that, at the end of the road there. So the stormwater is collected in either the infiltration trench or, the catch basins. It's passed through a water quality treatment unit, because we need 44% TSS removal prior to infiltration. And what we're providing is two large I don't know if you can see, it shows there. There's two large concrete chambers, underneath the road at that location where the stormwater is directed to. And at that location is where we meet our recharge volume and also our water quality volume. So with this site, where this site discharges to a tidally influenced area, we don't need to meet standard 2 peak rate runoff attenuation. We just need to meet standard 3 recharge and standard 4 TSS, total suspended solids. Easy for you. Yeah. I'm just fresh off a red eye last night, so I'm a little rough. But so that being said, so now we don't, I didn't have to provide pre and post stormwater calculations. What I did do in the stormwater calculations is provided detail on the TSS removal volumes, the water quality volumes, which is a 1/2 inch for this site, and also the recharge volumes, which is 0.6 because the surface, the soils are all well-drained soils. We did do extensive soil testing here, and the soils are all good, clean, permeable gravel with large offset to groundwater. So it's really optimal for underground infiltration. And with that, it's easy to maintain. You just put the water in there and forget it, and you don't have to worry about it, worry about maintaining plants, or sometimes rain gardens get a little finicky with the soils and such. They lose their permeability. With the pre-treatment, these basins, infiltration chambers will function fine for years to come. And then as far as the outlying areas outside of the jurisdictional areas, each home is covered with the clean water which falls off the roof. That's going to be piped, routed to just infiltration chambers. There is no water quality volume standard for that. It would be the recharge volume, which still is the same. It's actually slightly more water, 0.6 inches over the impervious area. And then we're also treating each of these driveways, the private driveways here and the shared driveway up here. They're collected, this driveway here for lot 3, there's a drip infiltration trench here at the end of the driveway where the water is collected, filtered, and then discharged into a chamber system. It's shared between the driveway and the house. And then up at lots 1 and 2, this driveway here, there's a smaller infiltration chamber system off the end of the road where there's a catch basin, a standard catch basin with a deep sump, a water quality in it, and that's directed to the chamber system. So with that, we meet the DEP standards, the DEP standards for this site. As Tom mentioned earlier, the city engineer was curious why we were providing the stormwater, but the initial submission was just for the 2. He was looking at the definitive, which were the 2 lots. But with the 5 overall, maybe you could play some funny games where you do the 2 and then cut one lot off and then come back and do the 3 lots after the fact, but. We're forthcoming with the project, just wanted to take care of it in the proper manner, so that's why we're dealing with the stormwater as per the DEP standards.
So there's no discharge into the
Oh.
creek or?
No, actually, okay, good point, I forgot to talk about that, so as part of the roundabout project, there is. Yeah.
You want me to zoom in more?
No, so, can you just, just follow the.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a 24-inch drain that runs down currently on the southern, or actually it's the eastern edge of the property that's underneath the road. So what they did when they did the roundabout, originally there was a pipe that kind of bisected, sort of angled through the center of the lot. And as part of the project, they relocated the drain, came down to it. It basically runs, it's hard to see, it's easier seen on the existing conditions, but there's a large 24-inch pipe, so the overflow from that driveway, from the roadway, will just tie directly into that pipe, so there's no new point discharge. There's an existing one that's stabilized that we'll be adding our overflow to. So it sort of simplifies the overflow from our chamber
And that
system.
discharge is at the bottom of the slope there?
Yeah, it's right at the,
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So the area of the creek, it looks like when that was dug up here, the city probably said, oh, what a great place to put our drainage. And so there's a 24-inch drain line that runs in there.
and yeah, you can see the associated easement with that. So we've located the road for the most part on top of that existing drainage easement and drain pipe. And instead of, the 24-inch pipe is substantially oversized for the need. And John Eric agreed with that. So we just have it's a 10-inch overflow that ties into that drain system. And that, our water at least is clean.
So all the water from the cul-de-sac goes down, gravity drains down through that pipe?
Yep.
All down there and then.
I'm not sure how much of that area, I think you can see, it looks like this, coming down Spofford, looks like at the bottom of Spofford. I see the 2 catch basins there, but yeah, it's probably, 24-inch pipe can convey a lot of water. I haven't been down to witness the outfall during a good rain event. I guess Sunday probably would have been, from what I hear, Sunday was a good one, Sunday night though.
Yeah, you had been out there at like 3 a.m.
Yeah, so there is no new point source discharges on this property, we're utilizing the existing system.
But does that discharge to where the creek sort of is?
Yeah, so this is, I mean, it almost looks like, it almost looks like when you follow that kind of creek up,
Then there's a.
where it terminated, they put the pipe. So it almost looks like, if you didn't know better, other than the fact that it's straight and no creeks are really that straight, you'd almost think it was something carved out by that flow. Because you can clearly see from those 1965 and 66 photos, there was nothing existing there. All right, and so are we good with stormwater? You want me to move on to the dock or?
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's see, thank you. So the plan is to continue to use that cart path, right? And where the cart path approaches the shed, we basically get people up onto an elevated walkway with through flow decking. We keep that at the same elevation to essentially blend with the existing shed elevation, the floor elevation, so you go in. So you can actually still go into that structure. And then, so this will be supported with helical piles. And then there'll be a seasonal ramp. The seasonal ramp gets you down to a float setup. And what we say here is we're showing habitat mooring block. So a habitat mooring block is kind of a trapezoidal mooring block, and I think I have a detail in here that I can pull up, but it has holes bored in it. They were developed up in Maine. I've used them elsewhere in the Merrimack River, and if you can't use helix anchors, then this is kind of the next best thing. They provide some habitat. They have nooks and crannies for fish to go into. We are going to try to use helical anchors, but if we cannot use them, then the habitat block is next. So we've basically done our impact analysis based on the habitat blocks as opposed to the helix, and we show it because just from my experience boating anywhere near that bridge that's not too far upstream, the river can really flow quite a bit there, and the sediment is likely too coarse to get the helix in. So let's just assume it's gonna be habitat block, and then it's a nylon, it's nylon strands attached to a short chain. It essentially acts the same as an elastic rope. It has basically the same idea of flexibility. It doesn't bang on the substrate. And the idea is, you know, we've got one long parallel float because we don't want to get out too far into the channel. Everything should be floating at a low tide, so we shouldn't have any issues with needing feet or sleds on the floats here. And you know, it's really kind of pretty straightforward. So you can see proposed anchor point using habitat mooring block if helix anchors cannot be installed. So
And have you talked to Harbor Master about this? Need a water sheet for that?
it will need approval from them, and we intend on pursuing chapter 91 approval as well. However, this would be permissible under a 10A on an annual basis, but
Yeah,
obviously, long-term, it's far more security than under a chapter 91. It will also need Army Corps.
mhm,
And,
right, and where will these go in the winter? Any idea, on site somewhere?
yeah, out of the wetland.
Yeah.
Obviously, either off-site for storage, and we can talk more about that, whether you have any desire to store them on site somewhere, or whether you want to just get them taken off, or do you know the answer there?
I think it's probably just ease of, you know, whatever works easiest. You know, I think at first we were thinking maybe where the beaten path is, like to the west of that might be.
Yeah, I mean, that's, if we got outside the wetland, right. The thing is, if you're in the wetland, then that poses a problem storing.
Well, like up from there, I don't know, I mean, that would be the only logical place that I was thinking from down there,
Yeah,
but other than that, I would say they'd be hauled off.
right. Yeah, 99% of people nowadays are gonna have somebody else haul it.
Yeah.
Bring it to a boat ramp and store it.
Yeah.
We'll come up with a firm answer on that.
It's kind of hard to haul it up over that bank.
It'd be hard to get over the bank, plus then we need a piece of equipment to do it down there too.
Right, right.
So it would be, most likely be hauled off. So.
Yeah, and I did see in one of the older pictometry photos, there's a crane sitting down by the river down there, which makes it really odd that I couldn't find any evidence of a former dock there, because they had sort of everything there as if there was a dock, but it looks like they just used it for a boat ramp.
I think we would prefer it to go off site.
Okay,
Fine with me.
we do have areas on, you know, within the area, you know, within the site that are non-jurisdictional as well, so we'll just look at, and just like I said, we'll come back with a firm answer, but if it probably is gonna be offsite. But I mean, to me, it's a pretty straightforward analysis of a lot of different regs. You know, it looks like we meet the regs, and I think the overall impact of the project, there really is no adverse effect. It's really a beneficial effect. Everything from getting rid of old commercial buildings and all, you know, the old homes and putting in newer, sort of more modern construction.
What was the commercial?
So
What were they? What kind
it
of-
was a
Machine shop.
machine shop. So
Any concerns about contamination?
We already had testing. That was one of the first things.
Yeah, but
Is there anything? No leaking barrels, nothing.
yeah, but the thing is, you know. Machine shops handling metals and all that kind of stuff and no stormwater controls is clearly an improvement. Going over to, you know, a less impactful residential development and bring some stormwater controls to it. And then adding some pollinator meadows, some low touch areas and letting the wetland revert. And the invasive control. And again, I mean, we can go through the landscape plan in more detail if you want. But I think it's just obvious from the graphic. You know, we paid a lot of attention towards the river from the development, to really try to beef up the planting in the areas that, you know, we're regrading here, to make that court area work, and then blending that down into the existing woody vegetation, expanding it, and then taking care of the invasives within the woody vegetation will have a real dramatic improvement, I think.
Are all the plants that are outside our jurisdiction, are those natives also? Trees and.
I don't know that they're all native, but there's nothing, nothing problematic, but at least maybe you could just answer
Yeah,
that.
they're all native except for the lilacs at the street edge. That's the one non-native. It's sort of a.
There aren't any native lilacs?
No.
No.
You would think there would be. They've been
I
around
know,
forever.
they feel native.
Yeah.
Right? You see them everywhere, they're historic, but they're actually not native. But that's the only one, everything else is.
I suspect they've been around 100 years or more, which would. make
I think
them
they
native.
have the right of citizenship.
Yeah.
So,
Tom, and the plantings down, where the outfall pipe is,
yeah,
is there, good soil there for planting now, or will you have to add?
no,
soil?
I don't think that there's any need for soil amendment except the sort of typical over dig for bigger plants. You typically dig 2 to 3 times the diameter of the root ball or the pot and, you know, add in some decent soil and some fertilizer, but I don't see anything. I don't see anything crazy. Once you start digging, you might find areas where we need some organic material, and we certainly would supplement as needed. The other thing is a lot of this is, as Steve said, sort of an area where we're adjusting grade with some fill. So we will actually, in this part of it, not so much down here, but in this area, we will be, you know, controlling that soil by the fill material and then the surface material. So we'll make sure there's plenty of good organic material in there. And we're also using the native seed mix in and amongst those plants.
Yeah, I don't have any problems, I don't think, with what you're doing, but I think a site visit might be nice. Just to confirm.
And there's no DEP file number yet either.
Yeah, no, and we've got, you know, I haven't got the green card back from Natural Heritage either, so,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
we're probably a month out before we have to close. For a site visit, the only complication is, next week, I'm in Washington all week, so.
Okay, well, I don't think we're gonna have a meeting on the 1st.
Yeah. So then we're
In
gonna
that
forum
forum.
first.
Okay, so maybe we could do a site visit early May. And
May.
I'm sorry, early April. It's been a long day, and I don't have an overnight flight to blame my head on. But I'll be back a week from Thursday, and then Friday's consumed with site inspections, so if we could set something up for maybe early the following week, the first week in April, and that would give us enough time to adapt to any observations and finalize this, finalize everything for that second meeting in April, or your only meeting in April. And hopefully we've got natural heritage by then and no crazy DEP comments, and then maybe we might stand a chance of closing at that meeting.
I did have one question. Like, when I was reading, I said, what is a bloody glove? And then
Oh, so-
you mentioned it.
So the bloody glove method is, and I know I've talked to you guys about this, but it's been years. So you put on a rubber glove, and then over that, you put over a thick cotton glove. And you literally have a bucket of the herbicide or a spray, and you drench the cotton glove, and then you essentially take the bloody glove and you wipe the plants with it. So it's a way of keeping your herbicide totally controlled. What you touch, it's like the Midas touch, right? You know, but it's called the bloody glove method.
Okay.
And actually, I learned that from the trustees about 15 years ago. They've used it quite extensively.
Since we are all here, do you want to try and pick a time for a site visit right now?
I won't be here that first
We
week.
can do that over email too, but I'm gonna be gone after next week, so it just might be.
Yeah, but you'll be downstairs having meals, right? Once you've retired, won't you become?
Yeah.
No.
How is, the second or the third proposed? The third. Well, either the second or the third should be good.
We do the second?
Are you gonna be around then, Joe?
No,
Oh, you won't be around, no.
no, I'm
Yeah,
not, I come back the next week.
I'd be happy the following week, I mean, we could do the main site visit, and Joe, if you wanted to go down after, you know, if you just let me know, we could probably find a time and just meet down there.
Julia's gonna be gone all of April, right?
Yeah, but I'm gonna be irrelevant at that point anyway, so
Well, you might,
I'd love to be there, but I'm gonna be gone for a month.
can we do it this week?
You won't, I mean, you won't need me.
You what?
You won't need me.
Don't upset us.
This week is tough, I actually leave for Washington on Friday, and I've got to prepare for meetings with.
Well, you guys just do it, the first week of April, and I'll contact
On the
them.
second, you'll be around.
I'm leaving on the third.
On the 3rd of April,
So the first or the second?
we could do even that Monday, I'm just thinking I've only been back for a day and I'll have people screaming at me, but, screaming at me, so.
You don't want us.
No, so why don't we do that, how about the Monday, the
Monday the
31st?
31st. What time?
Do you guys need it to be late in the day, or do you need,
Dan?
Later is better for me.
you wanna do like 4 o'clock, is that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll FaceTime you, Joe.
Hmm?
We'll FaceTime you.
I'll be in the air at that time, so.
Okay.
yeah.
4 PM on 31st.
Yeah.
Are there any stakes out there now that show where things are, or?
No, what I can likely do. I've actually successfully been able to do it, I'll have to work with Steve, I've been able to get. And Millennium did the last one I did, and Steve's now with Millennium, they exported the file into a KMZ, I was able to put it into Google Earth and bring my iPad and kind of walk around the development. And if we need I can also load something into my GPS, so if we need like an absolute, where's the wetland flag, I can use my GPS for that, and if we. Just generally, where's this house going, where's that, we can just use the iPad and walk around the development.
Mhm. Yeah, because there's landmarks out there that we can use as reference points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and then. Or if you want to hear from the butters, and then,
Yeah, no, we're gonna hear from the public next. Are we all set for now?
I think, do we want Jeff to just talk a little bit about?
Oh, the
Any
homeowners
thoughts?
association, yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, do you want to just chime in on the homeowners association?
Yes, thank you. Jeff Roloff's attorney for the applicant. Let me first say, I think everyone's going to miss Julia so much. I'm really sad, Julia, that you're leaving us soon. But with that said, on the homeowners association front, those details we're still working through. My client tells me, generally speaking, the area that's going to be subject to the, ongoing maintenance plan, particularly the mowing and invasive removal associated with the proposed meadow areas, will probably be governed by a homeowners association. But we'll sort that out and we'll get some clarity on that. And among the other, responses to other questions you've asked this evening, we'll get clarity to you in the next submittal package. But I do understand and appreciate that the order of conditions needs to be very clear as to what the ongoing responsibilities are and who is responsible for those activities. So we'll take care of that.
In the homeowners association document, I would like there to be no mention of outlawing clotheslines. Yes, I've seen homeowners associations documents that said no clotheslines.
I don't know that that's germane to.
Yeah, it's probably not their jurisdiction, but you can ask for it.
I'm asking for it anyway as a member of the.
Yeah, that's fine. I will clarify the developments here. These are not going to be 5 condominium units that'll have a homeowners association that expands beyond these sort of common areas in the back here that you're focused on. So it's not your typical condominium homeowners association complex, but I appreciate the comment. And we'll be clear about the boundaries that will be governed by the association here.
All right, we're set there. Do we have anything from the public? Anybody here from the public? Anybody online from the public? Raise your hand if you would like to speak.
You want me to stop sharing?
Sure.
Might as well.
Well, sometimes you can see hand better.
Oh, I didn't see anybody, so.
Yeah.
Did the city approve of where the driveways are onto that main road?
So,
I mean,
Yeah,
just kind of curious. It just seems
so
it's gonna be
the
a
comment, the only,
tough
yes,
call.
so number one, we're gonna be combining 2 driveways, there'll be a common driveway.
Not the one
On
for
the
four A
spot
and B, but the one of the,
of the main,
Yeah.
the main,
Yeah.
the new court. Well, we had our first meeting and it went very well. It was, the planning board seemed very receptive to that, to our presentation. We did get some peer review comments from the Phil Christensen, which we're responding to now. I think after tonight's meeting, there'll be an updated package as far as for the planning board. And I think I'm hopeful that we'd be closing at the next, or at least, I think they'll have to work through the homeowners agreements and such. I don't know, maybe Jeff, you might want to weigh in on the planning board process briefly.
Yeah, I do want to just clarify, the planning board process isn't focused on the driveway locations other than the proposed court. So the other ones that you're referring to, which would be one additional driveway, I think that's for lot 3, and then 2 along Spofford, right, Steve? I don't have the overall, if you have the overall plan.
There's one on Spofford. Yeah.
But, okay, just one shared off of Spofford. So I just want to be clear, the planning board's not actually reviewing all of the proposed driveway locations. And it sounds like there are 2 that you're actually asking about that are not part of that review. So those will be reviewed, as part of the A&R process, the approval not required process for the planning board, maybe, although that really relates to lot configuration, not lot build out. So generally speaking, it's going to come up probably in the context of building applications. I will say though that the planning office has seen this plan that you're looking at now, or some version of it with the same driveways located on the plan, and they haven't indicated any problems with what we're depicting there.
Actually, the contrary, they're very happy with
Yeah,
it,
that's
because
good.
we're
Yeah.
combining the 2 on Spofford into one to reduce the traffic.
Oh, there's two.
Is that-
Yeah, there's the
I
house,
don't remember. but-
there's the house that's coming down,
Oh,
where,
yeah.
the one up to the right.
Oh, so it's
And then
actually better.
if you can see in right where the new combined driveway comes in, you can see that's pretty much in alignment with where there's currently kind of a loop drive that goes through the whole place,
That's right.
comes in, so I think. You know, I think from that point of view, while it's not a conservation issue, I think it is an
Yeah, no, I
improvement.
know, I was just sort of curious from a,
Mm.
you know, drive down that road a lot.
Yeah, I mean, outside of wetland issues, I think it improves the area, and with wetland issues, I think it improves the area, and obviously we gotta work out some details with you guys on how we maximize that to the extent we can. But I mean, I think it's a good project.
Okay. All right then,
Steve had mentioned, at the beginning, inquired about historical structures. Has that been addressed?
Jeff, do you wanna go over the status of that?
Yeah, sure. So historic review actually did occur last spring. There are two houses out here in particular that were the focus, I believe. That one of them's on Spofford Street, furthest from the Rotary, and then the one at 570 Merrimack, I think, which is also the on the opposite end of the project, furthest from the Rotary on Merrimack Street. Are both houses that have been abandoned for 20 years, but there were historic structures here that were the subject of historic commission review, and the 1-year demo delay associated with these structures expires in April. So that process is pretty far behind us and hasn't presented any problems for the proposed project.
all right, so we're going to continue this to the April 15th meeting.
Motion to continue to April 15th?
Second?
All right, Steve Moore,
Yes.
Van Warshaw,
Yes.
Fry Riley,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item, River Valley Charter School, Perry Way, notice of intent. Thank you, sir.
Ryan, you've only been here 5 minutes earlier, you wouldn't have.
Right. Oh, no, it's more like 30 seconds.
Put it all in one that way.
Thanks for waiting, Beth.
Thank you. I'm going to my team. I'm going to have a presentation.
Oh, okay, great. Emily and these lists, so let me move Emily over. The panelist. Back. Hi, Emily.
Hello, good evening.
Great, you can hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yep.
do you want to share your screen?
Yes, please.
All right.
Let me know if you can see the screen.
Yeah.
All right, great. Katie, do you want to run through these or would you like me to run through this part?
Brendan and I can kind of go through them and maybe we can jump in as needed.
Okay, great.
You want to do
Can
it?
can you blow it up a little?
Of course. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's any parts of our original presentation you want us to touch on again, we can, but we thought we should go through updates to the plan and design that we did since we first met. if that's all right with you. So we kind of broke them out here. The first one is we revised the plans to respond to the comments we received from DEP. That includes a small area of wetland replication, for the dock that is proposed. An additional catch basin upstream of the water quality unit, because they didn't like the grate that we proposed on one of the water quality units. And then providing more information on the 2 water quality units that are proposed. So nothing too exciting there. I think we've talked a bit about the variance request for work within the 25-foot no disturb zone. Ryan, I don't know if you want to talk about that one a little bit.
Sure. So, ordinarily, the regulations don't permit work within the 25 no disturb zone, as the name suggests. But the ordinance also provides that the commission may grant variances from the regulations upon finding that no reasonable conditions or alternatives that would allow the project to proceed in compliance with these regulations exist. That mitigating measures are proposed that will allow the project to be conditioned so as to contribute to the protection of the wetland values. And that the project is necessary to accommodate an overriding public interest. And this project meets all 3 criteria. It proposes to modify previously altered 49,300 square feet within the 25 no disturbance zones on site, including removing 1,800 square feet of
Oh, so we have a net add of impervious area, but we are taking away some existing impervious area that actually sheet flows directly into the wetland, over by the main entrance into the school. So we're removing about, I think it was 1,400 square feet of pavement, that's just draining directly into the wetland. And we are adding some pavement to add parking in the back of the school and add paved walkways where currently none exist, to provide safer pedestrian routes through the school.
and thanks. And some of that work within where the pavement will be removed will be replaced with 2,000 square feet of pollinator gardens, 9 new trees, 47 new shrubs, vegetable garden beds, and seated areas. And so this, for the first criteria, there are no other alternatives that exist because nearly the entire site exists within the 100-foot buffer zone, and then significant areas of previously disturbed area are within the 25-foot zone too. So in order for any work to be done necessarily and to improve the wetlands that are on site, this work must occur within the 25-foot zone. And then all of this work that will include removing pavement from areas, and that will include new plantings, and will ultimately improve the wildlife function as it currently stands and as you saw during the site visit. And that will mitigate the effects of the work that we're proposing in there too. And then third, we're proposing that the public benefits, including the improved site functionality that we've been talking about, stormwater management for the property and for the industrial park around it. And then we're also proposing informational signage along the wetlands along Perry Way, so that members of the public, when they are parking there and going either across the street to the other school or using the playground themselves, they'll be able to learn more about what wetlands provide in terms of benefits to the public, to themselves, and what characteristics or wildlife they foster. And this variance request is in line with other variances that the commission has granted, including at 79 Parker Street, 100 Hale Street, and 16 Perry Way. At 79 Parker Street, the commission approved variance to disturb around 40% of the buffer zone because the project's overriding public interest was in preserving a historic farmhouse. And our project proposes more mitigation than that one did, and its public interests are closer aligned to the conservation ordinance and the Wetlands Protection Act too. At 100 Hale Street, UFP Technologies received a variance to disturb 1,700 square feet in the 25-foot no disturbance zone. because its mitigation overriding public interest were improved, wetlands and stormwater functions, a green roof, and, job creation for the industrial park. And, here our project will disturb, about 1,000 feet less of the 25-foot no disturb zone. And, we're proposing over 5,000 square foot reduction in paved area, impervious area, whereas they received a variance to build a whole new building, increasing that. And then at 16 Perry Way, the commission approved a variance for the Department of Public Services new administration building. 95% of that was in the buffer zone, 100-foot buffer zone, and partially within the 25-foot no disturbance zone. And their variance was approved because of the public's interest in this, and because the building facilitated DPS's work for the public. Here, our project provides, again, site-wide plannings and improvements to wetlands. And we provide more mitigation and public interest closer linked to the Wetlands Protection Act and the ordinance, like previously said. Whereas DPS received variance for no mitigation and equal public interest. So our variance request meets all three of the criteria, and it compares in line or more favorably than with other variances that the commission has approved.
Keep going.
I had just one, we talked about it when we were out there, it's like, was it, sort of a cleanup of that existing two ponds, you know. And it, I know you're not the contractor, so like, you know, how are you going to plan for sort of cleaning that area up? And, like there's some gravel that got into the wetlands, and then there some limbs on the trees that were broken, and lots of sort of debris in there. So I guess this is all great, but like, how will it get cleaned up, and then how will it be maintained, and how is that factored into your plans, like construction plans?
So we
if
would
anything?
handle that, with the construction notes on the plan dictating to the contractor how they need to do their work, which all needs to be by hand and on foot, with no machinery in the wetlands. Like we said, we would want to remove wood chips, gravel, anything like that, they would remove by hand, with shovels. And also, if there was a lot of dead vegetation and limbs, that they would also clean up by hand. They might need a little boat for some areas, which our surveyors did to survey them. But yeah, so we would specifically say that on our plans and notes, and the contractor would be held to that. That even includes, there's a culvert that connects the two ponds and the outlet control structure. So all of that would either be accessed from upland areas or again, by hand and on foot.
That culvert, does it need to be cleaned in order to convey water back, you know?
Yeah, so you had also asked about maintenance.
Yeah.
So we have an operation and maintenance, schedule. So there would be biannual inspections of the culvert and the outlet control structure, and the ponds themselves. And if there's debris, we dictate that would need to be cleaned up, biannually. Or if there's a huge storm event, include that as well. Yeah. So I think we had talked a little bit about why aren't we proposing, permeable pavement, also for some of the walkways. So what we did is we took another look. And Emily, if you want to go to one of the proposed site plans, at the concrete walkways in front of the school, and pretty much we narrowed all of them. They were wider, in some portions, and we were able to reduce that pavement by I think about 1,300 square feet. So that puts us at a net of just over 5,000 square feet of pavement reduction on the site.
gardens get bigger?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yeah, and Emily can describe this a little bit, I think you actually added in some more kind of, I don't know how you would describe it, it's not all lawn and manicured, right, it's.
Yeah, I can flip to the planting plan. We actually broke this into 2 pages. So one has the trees and shrubs, and this has the different seed mixes. And we did propose significantly more of the pollinator mix. So that's this dashed hatch. It would be in this front planter in near the outdoor classroom space. Also on this side of the wetland, just as a very welcoming entrance. So having a little bit of color within these native seed mixes.
While we're on this, so in that pond, the first pond, that's Low Street and Perry Way, no, the other one. That one, I didn't notice any phragmites in there. But the other pond had a lot of it. I'd like to see that go away. I know it, and it's not a one-time thing, it's a forever thing.
Yeah, and this is a discussion that our team has had multiple times. And part of it was recognizing that the school has limited resource areas, and are responsible for funding the grounds and their building themselves. And it just felt like where these ponds and wetlands are kind of interconnected to many other properties that are full of phragmites, it kind of, not that it's impossible, but it would be very expensive over years and perhaps difficult to keep them from coming back in.
I agree, however. If you don't remove it from that pond, it's eventually gonna take it over. And it's not gonna be anything natural at all, and not the educational thing you'd like it to be. So I don't know how the rest of the commission feels, but I'd like to see it go.
Yeah, I would like to see it go too.
To me, that would be,
It's just gonna spread.
that would also be a public benefit.
I think one of the other comments that we got from DEP was that they were worried about impacts to the wetland. And we thought this was kind of surprising to me that they said this, but they were wondering how we could do that without impacting the wetland. And I guess I'm curious how you've seen other people.
Well, I think what they were referring to is temporary impacts to the wetland, and they wanted to know how you're gonna mitigate for those temporary impacts, because even removal of invasives is gonna have temporary impacts in terms of disturbing soils and surrounding vegetation that you then need to figure, so you need like a restoration specialist for something like that. And even cleaning out an outfall, you're in there, you're gonna have to talk about mitigating any impacts during that activity. So my take on their comment was that they were looking at construction impact mitigation. I could be wrong, but
They did specifically call out invasive species management and looking for that specifically as opposed to general construction.
okay.
Which again, we hadn't originally proposed
Oh.
due to the cost, and then clarified in our response to those comments, that none was proposed to.
Okay.
I mean, there's a number of ways to remove phragmites. One is to dig it out. Which you never get all the roots. The other is to cut it. And then, as Tom was saying, use the bloody glove. That I've never heard of before. And just put a little bit of herbicide on it. Which would be less impact than digging it out.
And I guess that was the first time you've heard of it.
What doesn't mean
Yeah.
it hasn't been done, I just never heard it called that.
Yeah.
That's sort of a problem though, if, you know, throughout the industrial park, right? Phragmites
Yeah,
everywhere.
and fragments has been removed all over the place out there too.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah, no, people do it, but it's just
I guess-
like Steve said, it's gonna fill that whole basin. if nothing's done with it. So let's,
What is the connection? The water flows that way, right?
yeah, left, right to left.
Right to
yeah,
left.
Should be.
Generally, yes, but it's also very flat, so it also
Mhm.
kind of fills up and lowers together.
Is it fill up mostly from groundwater?
Yeah, when
yeah.
there's standing water in all the time,
It's all
so,
standing water.
yes,
But
but of course it also receives stormwater runoff.
Yeah, groundwater.
from the road or from just the property, or just from upgraded property?
There's a very big watershed that kind of drains down to this
Yeah, the
point,
little river.
including the Knockmullen campus and Johnson Street and portions of Perry Way and uphill from the Knockmullen school.
And through the culvert and then through the just bordering connections, it connects back to all the wetlands behind the property.
Mhm.
And well, all the wetlands in the rest of the property, and then those behind that and the rest of the industrial park too.
Mm.
So and this pond on the left there, we call it a pond, of course, they're both replicated wetlands, and that one is really connected to acres of wetland beyond that.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying I play fragments either, but I don't think the school does either, but I think we need to be mindful of their yearly budget.
Have the kids go out there and pull.
Yeah,
Think these are things I-
can learn that too.
Well, I think once you go through the initial expense of this first year, I don't think it's that much on an annual basis, in theory. It's not gonna come back. I mean, some of it will, but I'm not an expert.
I don't see how I think it absolutely would come back.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
It's one of those things that's really hard to get rid of unless you either excavate it all out, which is a massive amount of impact, or use the glyphosate year after year for
Yeah.
several years and handful and see them come in and continue. So it's a long-term management situation, for sure.
I
Yeah,
think it would need to be in perpetuity, just because of all the fragmenting nearby.
Yeah,
I
I
guess,
mean, you have open water, so it's never gonna get into there as long as you keep the ponds themselves open. It's the edges that you.
Right, that's the problem. It creeps in too, and it keeps dumping mats of, itself.
it'll eventually remove the pool.
Yeah.
It'll,
Oh, that's what I mean, as long as they maintain the pond bottom elevation and, you know. Make sure that it's not getting filled in with debris and sediment where Phragmites is, but as long as you have open water, I think the Phragmites is not going to.
I don't know, it looked to me like it was growing and open, well, maybe it used to be.
well, really, yeah, really can't, it'll drown and.
Yeah, doesn't like fully inundated conditions, it will go in like intermittent. But. Something to look at, I mean, maybe you could talk to your, wetland scientist.
I can only play wetland science so much, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I know you guys know what you're doing, but I mean, I guess someone who's done Phragmites restoration or Phragmites.
Not restoration.
Yeah.
Inverse restoration.
And I think I would reference that comment that Ryan mentioned, from the analyst at MassDEP, who specifically said that she didn't support the removal.
So as I've mentioned before, my biggest concern with the variance are the parking spots at the north that will totally abut the wetland. I have big heartburn with that. I honestly don't see the need to go into there. The fact is you could build something, you could utilize part of the stuff, the area that's already paved over further south and you know, turn those into parallel, get them away from the wetland. And just move the whatever fence down below the right arrows there, where they're parking now. I just. The rest of the intrusion, I don't really have a big issue with, because especially further south, you know, it's concrete block walls that are keeping, yeah, all that down there is all block walls, so that's going into there doesn't really mean a lot, but you want to go and directly abut the wetland and, for parking, and that's kind of a red line for me. And I know there should be enough room to get most of those spots. Some parallel and then some to the south there, but
They need to keep that for fire lane, the one to the south, right?
what's that?
For fire lane, fire truck.
No, I'm talking about the very top up there,
Yeah, I know, but you said to the south of that, on the north side of the building?
on the north side of the building, yeah.
Right, on the south.
The area further south where the ponds are, all
Oh.
that is up against
Oh, right,
concrete
right,
blocks.
but I'm saying, you're saying those parking lot lines, just turn them sideways and like move the line in?
Yes,
And-
just,
And so like reduce by, what?
it will reduce some, but I'm also saying there are areas, like an area that's already being parked in below there, that they want to turn completely into grass, that area there. There is room for some perpendicular parking in there. I don't like you're gonna disturb the wetlands by putting in those retaining walls. I also would not approve putting that shed up in a 25-foot no disturb to the right up there. I'm just not good with that. I don't think it's necessary, and I'd like to see some sort of realignment of those parking spots.
Is there room for more parking along the way?
So we've maximized the parking along the frontage of Perry Way. And I think the overarching goal of this project is to make the limited upland area within the project site usable for the student body. And at the rear of the school, it's in the shadow during the day. Most of the months schools in session are cold, and that area in the back is not usable for educational or play purposes. That area to the right of the school where we're taking out a parking lot and putting in grass, that is a comfortable place. So that's kind of where we ended up with this layout. Those parking spaces, the ones that are head in there, they're already compact. So a typical parking space is 18 feet long. Those are shown as 16 feet, which is about as short as we can go to be usable. I understand that you don't like the idea of vehicular pavement so close to the wetland. This pavement would be sloped away from the wetland, with a curb along the edge. And going to a new catch basin with a deep sump and a hood and water quality treatment unit. So I really don't expect that there would be any runoff from the pavement back there that would get into the wetland. I know we're really close there. There's a short Versalock retaining wall, which I think we've all seen. Those are small blocks that can be installed by hand. We would leave a silk fence in place during installation of those, so there would be erosion control there at all times. And we would make sure that the area was stabilized as soon as possible after that was put in. So we're really trying to be mindful of the wetland, which I know back there is pretty much all fragmented. And it's just, we're just trying to make the grounds more useful to the school.
And as you saw on the sidewalk too, that area is all previously disturbed within the buffer zone. It currently has pavement. I believe it's only a few feet further that, we're proposing that is already paved and close to the wetlands and, drains closer into them. You saw that the, curb was not very effective in that spot. And like he was saying, this would improve how, stormwater and runoff flows back into treatment rather than going directly into the wetlands too. And to the point about, potentially moving them next, parking spaces next to the building, there is, fire and safety and, traffic flow all require that, the new traffic pattern have those 2 lanes and have that width without cars parking next to the building in order, for, fire trucks to get through, to have enough, turning radius and for, the rest of the safety and flow for the traffic to work as well.
Yeah, I'm not even discussing, that's not an issue for me. I'm talking about having the parallel come all the way straight back and utilize something somewhere else for, the additional spots that you're losing there. The access will be all the same.
Well, like where you were saying, but the word stipple, yeah, right there, just like right across from that, you wouldn't be losing too much that area. The parking was there.
What was it?
If the parking was there instead, like where his. where
Yeah,
his
that's basically what I'm,
Yeah, but
what I'm saying.
you wouldn't be losing too much of that green space either.
no. But, as far as the observation deck and all that other stuff, I don't have an issue with. I just don't think we need to be going into taking up the entire buffer zone there, 25 foot and undisturbed for parking.
You would, if you did that and you moved it, you'd still have a catch basin there, all right, that would drain the road. You'd still have to have that catch basin there. Right?
Yes. Yeah. I do think we could find another home for the shed. That the shed that's already there, we could probably find another place to put that. That's a concern.
If you made those perpendicular places parallel, how many could you get, what, 4 parking places in there? Maybe 5?
Ellie, could you go back to the plan that has the parking counts on it? I think it's really up
My
material.
destination is probably 4.
The other direction, Ellen.
Sorry.
The one right after that.
There we go.
So we had 12 8-foot wide spaces there. 12 times 8.
Oh, 96.
96. So 96 divided by 22 would be 4. So we'd be going from 12 spaces to 4 spaces.
Okay, and if you across the street there in the field, instead of putting perpendicular in, could you put 2 or 3 parallel there?
You're using blue beam, right? Could you measure that length
Yeah.
of grass?
Yeah, she,
Me.
It's funny
Scale.
scale.
Well, that would be 7 places where you had 12 before. So you'd be losing 5. Is that a problem?
what?
It does because, it would affect the total amount of spots, that we're proposing, and we would have to, update our request before zoning, even though it is, Denver exempt use, we would, this would be a significant enough change that we would have to reevaluate the number of spaces on site. And, I believe it would still be a net positive, but it would, we would still have to, re-ask based on the new number of parking spaces.
What about the idea of just adding some additional mitigation or wetland replication, or area to the wetland replication? As mitigation for those spaces rather than moving them? Is there any way to make that replication area larger?
Yeah, I don't think we could fit in 1-to-1, because we, again, we lose the area, but we could maybe extend it kind of to the back of the dumpsters. Which that was,
Maybe not a lot of space, I'm just trying to think of a way that would sort of make up for that impact for the commission. I can't.
I think, yeah, I think if we were to extend that wetland application, Emily, if you would extend it, I guess the length of the dumpsters behind them. So the wetland replication got deeper.
I don't know if that would, if that works for the commissioners, I'm just throwing it out there as a other potential option.
I guess I don't have a huge problem with the parking as it is, because I know there's a wetland right there that we're abutting against, but it's all fragmites. Which has little or no wetland value. You know, it's. So if you, for me, if you expanded the mitigation area, I'd be fine with it. I don't know, Joe, I don't know.
No, I wanna see what is gonna get proposed. That's my 2 cents.
No, I mean, Joe, I think you bring up a good point, you know, and the question is, I don't know if you have an accurate estimate based on what you've drawn, but what do you have for a net loss of spaces if you were to adjust that plan accordingly?
So I
So-
think that,
Oh, sorry, Katie, I can just chime in. We could get about 4 more, or this would change to about 4 parallel spaces here. And then if we wanted to do all 8, you can see it really doesn't fit on this side. So I think we would lose at least 1 space.
I mean, it seems to me like losing 1 space is a pretty reasonable compromise to get out. I mean, it's not only disturbance in the 25-foot zone, but it's a permanent disturbance with vehicles parked there. You know, it's probably the least ideal scenario.
well, I think right now there's a lot of pavement on this site that's used by cars that just drains directly into the wetland with no mitigation,
No doubt about it. I mean, this is an improvement for sure.
and we're eliminating all of that. We're going to
Understood.
all of those pavement to be
Understood.
treated.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, this is meant to be a sports field. And I think, I know it's not regulation depth, but, making it smaller, you know, it's just not as usable. Which I think would be a shame for the school, trying to fit in, you know, the most that they can there. And so. Hear your concerns.
Is
You
there,
know,
oh, sorry.
another concern that I have with those spaces in particular is it. I would be surprised if a plowing company didn't start pushing snow right off of the edge. Well, along the side, they're gonna just go straight down and bring it around the driveway, but I think the temptation for someone coming in there at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting that cleared out, that concerns me too. You know, that the snow is going to be pushed over there. Snow that's been sitting on oil soaked pavement.
We're doing this to get rid of the Phragmites though. This is our.
Yes.
Your
Our
removal
removal
plan.
plan, yeah.
March 21. Could we maybe go through the rest of our revisions? Like-
Oh, yeah, sure.
I had another question before we move on. The areas, that you increased in size as a result of reducing the width of those pathways where you have the pollinator, seed mix. Are you planning to cordon that off in any way that prevents, cause it seems like every square inch of non-paved surface out there is trampled to where nothing grows.
Emily, you wanna show them what?
Yeah, let me flip through the landscape plan and then I'll show a detail as well. So we heard from the site walk that having a low plant protection barrier would be beneficial. So we proposed a wood post and rope barrier along these planted areas with the pollinator habitat, and then again along the edge over here that's planted with a different seed mix. The perimeter would still have a chain link fence just to help, especially with ball control, but it would have a 6-inch minimum gap below it to allow for wildlife to pass through. Because we didn't want to create a situation of having 2 chain link fences that often traps trash and just other debris. We thought the wood post and rope fence or plant barrier, excuse me, would be helpful just as a visual cue to alert students, to slow down, not go in there, and still really fit with the look of the school. And I can just show the detail as well. So we've added this rope rail detail in, so it would have a 6-inch by 6-inch post with holes, and then a natural fiber rope strung between each post. It does need a little bit of sag just because the rope itself, can collect moisture, just different thermal conditions. It can shrink and expand a little bit. So having some give within there is helpful.
So that post would stick up above the ground 6 inches?
The post itself would be 3 feet tall.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Do you have any of the pictures accessible? They're really pretty.
I could pull up an image. Give me just a minute. So I'm just gonna pull the whole screen over. Are you able to see this? Is it showing the web
Yes.
browser? Okay. So this image here, I know it's a little bit small. This is the style that we would be going for. We are proposing a little bit of a thinner rope just because I think the urge for a child to use this as a swing with a thicker rope is a little too overwhelming. So a thinner rope just prevents kids from really swinging and, trying to use it as a tightrope to walk on. But this style is seen a lot of times too at like national parks and just places where, it's a visual cue to stay on a path, but still works really well with the natural landscape.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think that's a great solution, so. I don't mean to interrupt you, go ahead.
No, Emily, do you want to go back to our list at the beginning?
Yep.
Page 1.
Sorry, which page was it? This page,
No,
Katie?
one where I speak, Emily. The one with the list of discussion topics.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay. We delineated the snow storage area that we talked about in the grass on the west side of the school. We just talked about the rope and post fence. I know, Steve, you had some questions about what's in the seed mix and the proposed plant species, so Emily can describe those.
Yeah, let me jump again to the planting sheet we added. So we clarified the seed mixes. We now have 3 native seed mixes. We're also just showing the athletic lawn area that would be a mix of fescue and Kentucky bluegrass. But these 3 seed mixes would all be native mixes. So we divided them into a mitigation planting seed mix, a pollinator garden seed mix, and the wetland restoration seed mix. As I mentioned before, the pollinator garden is primarily located near the outdoor learning and the school entrance, really to include a few of those brightly colored native plants for visual interest, but also for pollinators that wraps around this side of the wetland. The mitigation planting would be the primary seed mix along all the perimeter of the site and along these driveway areas. We do have it over in this outdoor learning area just so students would have a different experience between the 2 different spaces and along this perimeter. And then this back corner is where we have the wetland restoration seed mix. As Katie had mentioned before, that was accounting for the size of the pier in this wetland. Just zooming in, these are the seed mixes we're proposing. We're using New England Wetland Plants, which is a really helpful company that has all native plants in their mixes. And so these are the 3 different mixes. I'm not going to go ahead and read every plant, but I think just zooming in a little bit, hopefully you can read those. These show the mixes of the scientific name, common name, and then indicator in terms of how wet they like their feet, which I'm sure you're all aware of. And then we also included just notes for the contractor of the application rate, and then just that they need to be following the vendor's recommendation, including cover crops, just for the seeds to take. So those are the 3 different mixes that we're proposing.
Has that been uploaded to the city's website? Yeah,
Yes.
okay, guess I didn't know if they did that.
Yeah, a bunch of new documents just were uploaded today, yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look at it and maybe comment.
Great. Yeah, we'd welcome any comments or suggestions on these. Would you like me to go back to the first page, Katie?
Yeah, actually, I remember what they were. We added a walkway connection, between Ferry Way and the walkway on the school site. This was a request from the planning department, so that people who park along Ferry Way, particularly when school's not in session and they want to walk to the other schools or to the athletic fields, that gives them a safe passage to the crosswalk across Low Street. And then lastly, Ryan mentioned earlier, but we're proposing informational signage along Perry Way to describe the wetlands and habitat and wildlife. So that people who would now park there can learn a bit more.
Where does the negotiation with the city on, I don't know what to call it, the public use
agreement?
Public use agreement?
Our board is meeting tomorrow night, to discuss whether we want to accept the funds or not. If we,
What funds are we?
oh, CPA, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the Community Preservation Act funds.
Yeah.
And yes, Karen hasn't, Director Hughes hasn't had time to meet with her board yet following the CPC meeting. And they have to decide whether or not to accept them. They've recently learned from their insurer that it's not as straightforward as it seemed at the start. And but regardless, so that's why we had proposed in our update on the variance request, we didn't we're not moving forward suggesting that with the easement for public access in place, but we're building a new playground and there will be parking and, available, outside of school hours, and the school isn't going to be chasing anyone away from the playground either. So there, we'll still have, parking along Perry Way and, playground, but for the time being before, director has time to meet with the board, we're assuming, no, easement for public access.
Yeah, the Community Preservation Committee put a bunch of conditions on the money that was voted in. Which included, you know, public access and things that needed to be in that agreement, so. Okay,
I believe that covers the updates that we had.
I have a suggestion on, for the language in your variance request. You didn't mention any, an improvement in the safety, for the students, and it seems to me that's one of the key elements of the project is that it improves the safety conditions and, you know, particularly with regard to traffic flow and everything like that, and I feel like that would be helpful in terms of justifying, a public benefit. To me, I don't know if the other members agree, but when I look at this project as a whole, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is it's an improvement in safety and traffic flow for the school, but the safety part of it, I think, helps the language, would help the language in a, variance request.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and it depends on the commission's view of the, public interest as well. This obviously massively benefits the school in terms of the quality of the grounds, the educational opportunities, the play opportunities, and the health opportunities, and then of course the safety too, and improving traffic flow. It's not necessarily, a benefit to the public at large because it is, more to the benefit of the school and its students. And, so we hadn't included that in our variance request, but if the commission views that as a public benefit, we'd be more than happy to expand on how, the project overall benefits the students as a public benefit.
I think it improves the safety for the students, but I also think the traffic flow, getting all those standing cars off of Low Street. And, you know, double line on your property. Cause I've driven by there when you and the knock are getting out and it's not a pleasant experience. So.
I mean, it's a charter school, but it is a public school as well, and so that it might not be every kid who goes there, but then the other schools also, it's not every kid in Newburyport who goes to the other schools either, so. I think that opinion, that counts as public. benefit.
Noted, yeah, we can update, to reflect that as well.
okay.
Commission mind if we had a minute to talk before continuing?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
We go into executive
We'll
session.
take a little break. You wanna go outside and discuss?
Thanks.
Giving you a recess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you do that? Research.
And I'll do that.
So.
What's that?
It's just thinking about the spaces. You know, like. I mean, it's not much of a wet, but I understand your point, you know?
Let's see what they can do and.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know, that were really viable, but I don't know. Have some issues with it, but it's fragmented and
No, I understand
it's
that,
not gonna get any better.
I understand that, but it's flagged a wetland,
Yeah.
and that's a wetland, and
I was actually wondering if it might get better with the wall there, you know, actually separating it from the pavement better. You know, over time might get better,
Certainly curving will help.
yeah,
I mean, there's nothing there now.
yeah. Yeah, it's just a
You know,
tight
there's-
site.
they-
it is, there's so much.
and they need to make decisions, because the community preservation money is contingent upon an agreement. And it sounds like their insurance company doesn't like an agreement for some reason.
They also need a lot more money.
Insurance company.
Well, they are an insurance company, that's.
Left out in the cold, left out of the private in the home.
Maybe that whole industrial complex is,
So if it was today, it wouldn't be there,
yeah, right.
plain and simple,
Or it'd be very, very different. There'd be
it would be tiny,
very few scattered lots.
yeah.
Or maybe they do like a higher density, smaller location.
Mm.
You know, if planning still has layout, the NAID layout
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
of the, yeah, the house I moved into, Bill DC used to own it. And I found all sorts of drawings, NAID drawings, all this other stuff, the whole development.
You
behind-
lived in Bill DC's old
Yeah,
house.
he built it.
He left
What a
stuff there.
coincidence.
Oh, yeah, oh, God, yeah, I had all sorts of stuff, I gave a lot of it to the planning office, you should have seen all that area. That's all open space behind me now,
Yeah,
that's all, you know.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a procedural question for the commission. If we were to address the parking in the rear of the building tonight, do you feel as if you have enough information in front of you for a vote tonight, or there are other areas that you would want to review before taking a vote?
Yeah, I wouldn't wanna vote tonight. Sorry about that, I know it may be useful for the board of directors meeting, but, I need to see some of the responses and such, so I would be a no vote tonight, but it's, cause we discussed a lot of things too. I don't know the rest of the commission, but
It doesn't, it only takes one right now, so,
no, actually,
you
no.
need,
The three, you can, there's only four of us, the three.
Oh.
of us, yeah, no, that's, so it would be,
So what are the outstanding issues other than the parking that,
Well, we're gonna have four.
I know, but I.
Yeah.
And it has to be like.
well, I just, before we get far, I'm gonna go with Joe as,
If you don't have four members, more than
It has
four
to
members.
be.
if he's not comfortable,
It just doesn't-
I'm not gonna push the issue.
Okay,
Research.
that resolves your question.
It's
I
never
think,
happened.
King
It's
can.
never happened.
It has to be, if it's not in.
Okay, then we've shared the information prepared for you tonight. Does anyone have further questions?
With the majority.
I'm all set.
Thank you.
All right, we request that we continue to your next meeting then.
okay, that'll be the 15th, I think, of April.
we're not gonna have.
Oh, yeah, we won't have a plan
Do
next
you know
week.
anybody who would like to be a member of the
Yeah,
Conservation Commission, send them.
but you
I'll
can't,
have
Send
six
their
people.
you can't vote
Where,
on
where do
this.
they send their resumes?
To the mayor's office.
Yeah.
The mayor's
No,
office?
I'm not kidding.
Oh, I'll hand deliver them, yeah.
Really new members.
Not that there, it would be a conflict though, for them to vote on their
Well,
own
but, yeah, it
project.
would take a little while for them to be appointed.
Yeah.
We're not talking
Oh,
about.
no, I know, but I have people that are very fired up about
Fabulous.
this whole thing,
Yeah.
so,
They have
Because we need
interest.
two
yeah, and
members.
care about the environment,
Perfect.
so.
Bring it.
It's
Bring
because
it.
they're
Bring
fired
it
up or care about it.
We do have rules.
We're good at following rules.
Yeah.
No, just really, you know, I'm sure there are parents in your, people in your staff, yeah. Okay. Alright, so we're
Double
gonna
wetland.
continue, you understand where the commission is on what they're asking for?
Yes.
Feel comfortable with that, okay. So,
Yeah, so we need to continue to the next meeting.
Need to ask the public first.
I don't think there's any.
just make sure. Yeah, we have nobody.
Okay.
Motion to continue until April 15th.
Second?
All right, Seymour,
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Bob Riley,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So the motion to close the public hearings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. So where are we on 8S Street?
So, yeah, we are on East F Street and fortunately we have Ryan still here, so, I'll pull up the letter, which.
Fine.
All right. Ryan submitted this letter to the commission today. I don't know if you all had a chance to read it. I emailed it, forwarded it to you.
Yeah, I agree.
But essentially, do you wanna just let them know what?
Sure, so, since our last update notifying you that the PRPs intend to make the structure permanent, they've, chosen to go forward with Millennium Engineering for their wetlands and NOI submission. And they are now finalizing architectural plans, with their architect, who should have them done by the end of the month. And Millennium expects 4 to 5 weeks to, work on the plans, and so expects to submit an NOI between early and mid-May.
So they're planning on making a permanent structure on wheels, or are they gonna take it off?
They're going to, so it is on wheels, but it can exist on its own. It can, depending on how you construct it, it can go back and forth, but they are planning on taking it off the wheels and putting it, raising it on pilings. A little close, in a better position to the house.
Okay, so they're gonna move it. So why do they need an architect since it's already been constructed? That was my main question.
Sure, because they are also planning to build an addition to the house as part of the project. This, the Fairviews originally went forward, originally constructed the trailer because they had outgrown their space in the current house and needed some extra storage when they, in addition to word from the city about the trailer, they were also considering whether to completely raise the house on pilings to build a completely new house. And after going over plans with their architect and their engineers and many other experts, have decided on keeping the shed but raising it on pilings to keep the storage, and then building a small addition to the house for extra living space and function too.
So the trailer or whatever it is used for storage.
Yes, it's there's no power or water running to it. There's no living space. It's just storage for surfboards and beach chairs and that sort of thing.
So if we go back however many years, 4 or 5, when this was put in place, we would not have permitted So. Just moving it around and putting it in a different place. 5 years after the fact, when Julie was told it was a temporary thing 5 years ago. I mean, I'll have to see the NOI, but I'm not inclined to approve it.
We'll see.
I think my main question is, is the architect and Millennium and the applicant aware that obviously they know they're in the V zone. They know what elevations are required, and there's a 20, like the increase in footprint can't go beyond 20% of the existing footprint on the lot. Within the V zone, and they've already basically reached that with the shed. So to put on an addition, there's no square footage available to them left for an addition. If they're asking to keep the square footage of the shed and move it somewhere else, they've eaten up the available 20% increase in footprint. I just don't want them to go paying an architect to do an addition that will not get approved. It would be very frustrating for them, and I think for us, if they got to that point and we had to tell them there's no possible way.
Yeah, so to address both comments at once, they are aware of the rules and plans, again, are in development. They don't exist yet. And we don't have totals on square footage yet because there are no plans. And we, in preparing them, of course, are going to draw them up in conformity with the Wetlands Protection Ordinance and with zoning. And once they are to get, in addition with the actual drawings too, through engineering review at Millennium, and then in connection with our office, we'll review those plans against the rules again. And wouldn't submit something that would only
Yeah.
be rejected afterwards.
I'm not trying to disparage like the team working on this at all. But just in our office today, I did a back of the envelope, I just measured square footage of their existing house. The square footage of the shed that's out there right now, unpermitted shed, and that's already 20%. So it's not like the architect is gonna draw something and then you're gonna look at it and then make those. There's no need to go down that road when you can already do the basic calculations. So unless they're proposing to like get rid of that existing shed and cut the size of it in half and use the other half square footage to add on to the house. I mean, maybe that's the kind of thing they're proposing. Again, I'm offering this information in case they haven't looked at it yet. And I don't think anyone should be spending money on an architect to draw up plans without having done those very basic square footage calculations first. That's all I'm offering up.
Yeah, I hear your concern, and
Okay.
again,
And I don't, you don't really need an architect to do that. Again, like you can scribble that down on a piece of paper and there's your answer.
yeah, again, hear your concern, and this is what the property owners have
Okay.
decided to do,
Okay.
and they're going forward with it, and are working together.
That's
With
their
one,
choice.
yeah.
Clearly, yep, go for it.
Okay. All right, well, we look forward to the NOI.
Sure.
And do we have?
And that would be May. You had anticipated something in May.
Early to mid, yes. All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'll vote up some members of the conservation commission.
10 new applications, great.
They'll all leave as soon as it's approved.
So for your commitment.
You know, who might be just interested and didn't know that there was.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't have a problem. They can't vote in it anyway, so. All right,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn Julie's last meeting as administrator.
Julie.
I'll second.
Julie, I almost couldn't help but think that maybe
Wait, hold on, should I?
Yeah, we should shut that up.
Bye, everybody.